day trading is too stressful or you just don't want to deal with the volatility of the market, M1 Finance has got you covered. This easy-to-use trading platform basically lets you build your own index fund out of companies that you believe in. And if you use my link at chainsawccc.com/M1, M1 Finance will give you a free $30 just for signing up and funding your M1 account. Get started today. chainsawccc.com/M1. $30 is waiting for you, bro. I think this is probably the greatest thing that I've seen in a while, right? So again, as promised, we're going to see how deep the Schmitt can get, right? So let's just jump right back into this here. Associated Press released this on the 10th. Judge orders restaurant temporarily closed in mask dispute. Okay. A judge has ordered a suburban Kansas City restaurant to close temporarily because the owner repeatedly refused to follow a mask mandate. Jackson County Judge James Kanatazar, wow. We're going to cut that in post. James Kanatazar on Friday granted the county's request for a temporary restraining order against Ray's Cafe in Blue Springs. The county has filed a motion seeking to permanently prevent the owner from operating in violation of the health order. Before the judge's ruling, Jackson County health officials and sheriff's deputies served the cafe owner, Amanda Volitz, with an order to close because the mask mandate was being ignored. Well, party of law and order, eh? I thought we went over this. But the business continued to operate Friday morning. Ray's Cafe's food permit was suspended last week. The owner then reopened as a private club, which charges customers $1 to join and prohibits masks. They're pulling the old strip club gambit, huh? Where you're a church now. Slick. Yeah. Jackson County said in a statement that it would take the necessary steps to ensure the health order is enforced. Volitz said she and all her workers are medically exempt from the mask mandate, but has not explained what medical conditions they have, the Kansas City Star reported. The county said Ray's Cafe is the first business it has tried to close for not following county requirements during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, right. So this restaurant is trying to pull the old strip club order on, we're a private club. We're not a business per se. We're just having folks over and they're making, $12 contributions to our club. And we just so happen to be giving away free food to folks based on what they're looking for. The same thing we see in the nightclub industry when it comes to gentlemen's clubs. Obviously here at the state level in Missouri, they've passed several fun bits of legislation. Most of those are based on laws that were passed previously in Ohio, which is strange. But having certain requirements and regulations on gentlemen's clubs, so a lot of them have just gone the route of calling themselves private clubs. They're just members, and you buy a membership and all of that. So anyway, as promised, this is how deep the Schmitt gets. Erich Schmitt tweeted in response to this, local bureaucrats hell-bent on control under the guise of their mask mandates shut down Ray's Cafe in Jackson County. The owner's a single mom trying to provide for her family. I'll be there at a rally this morning to support her and we the people who've had it with government overreach. Come on, guy. Stop with the government overreach stuff. Like, if Mike Parson wants to say that crap, that's weird, but I guess he can. That's cool. But, like, you, sir, are not allowed to talk about government overreach. You gotta be freaking kidding me. That's really something else. I mean, the audacity. The absolute sheer audacity of this guy. And when it comes down to state legislators or the attorney general or the governor talking about how President Biden doesn't have the right, like he doesn't have the right to use his federal power in this way. I want to remind folks about Governor Parson's executive order cutting unemployment benefits months ago for working families across the state. even though Missouri statute, what was that, RSMO 288, clearly shows that Governor Parson does not have the right to cut those benefits. That as governor, the Missouri state legislation statutes and the federal statutes, U.S. code regarding the Department of Labor and the creation of unemployment as a given, which is also attached to Social Security there, or it mentions Social Security in its references Social Security in its creation. And again, this was written back in the 50s, okay, so it's not something new, that this actually does not allow for Governor Mike Parson to have the right to an executive order stopping unemployment for Missouri families. And yet, we had a judge, was a district court judge there in Cole County, who just decided, made it up out of the freaking blue, that he was going to rule on that however the hell he wanted to. So, keep in mind, when they talk about who does and doesn't have the right, apparently rights don't freaking matter here in the state of Missouri. Cronyism is what matters. So, definitely something to think about. Now, when it comes to all of these mask mandates and government overreach and all this wacky stuff, right? You've got to think, well, wait a minute, Chainsaw, I've been watching your channel for a while. Didn't you just do a video recently about, the Caleb Rowden is calling for Missouri legislators to protect the freedoms of these anti-vaxxer QAnon whack jobs, right? And Governor Parson and Attorney General Erich Schmitt are all over this as well, and they're asking legislators to help them in the fight. Well, didn't you just do a video about a Missouri state legislator whose husband died of COVID-19 and who was an avid anti-vaxxer? Yes, I did. That was recently. Did a video, posted it about Sarah Walsh and her husband, who had obviously been very outspoken, both of them, about vaccines and masking and, all of that. And the next thing you know, he dies of COVID, complications of COVID-19. So my first thought is, well, if they're calling on Missouri legislators, what does, Sarah Walsh have to say about all of this? And so I took a look here at her Twitter page, and the first thing that I found was this monstrosity. Sarah Walsh posted this on, looking like the 9th. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, retweet from Nick Schroer. Joe Biden is, and this is coming from a lady whose husband died of COVID, who refused to take the vaccine, spoke out publicly. He worked in Vicky Hartzler's office, apparently for 10 years. All of them are strong anti-vaxxers, okay? She tweeted, Joe Biden is trampling our constitutional rights and destroying the American dream. Business owners must never be forced to make their employees choose between their constitutionally protected freedoms and their livelihood. That's a quote. That is such a quote. She included it in her posts as an image because she wanted to say that incredibly stupid nonsense twice. Wow. How do you even have the audacity? That's cold. That's so cold. That's so cold and so stupid. So looking down at the responses on Twitter, it really grabbed my attention, and we'll use this to transition into the social media context here. Let's see. Steve, this is from Solus Populi Suprema Lex Esto. Their response, it's bad. But I'll read it. I might get this video deleted. Definitely will probably get this episode of the podcast deleted. Steve Walsh loved every second of his freedom, all the way up until he was coughing up blood from his lungs and needlessly dying in the hospital. Biden is trying to keep people from killing themselves needlessly and from hurting others. Climb off your cross and help for a change. I mean, what more is there to say? That's sick and disgusting, and, you know, people like that have no business in government. People like that have no business, honestly, people like that have no business serving freaking food. This isn't a Republican thing. This isn't a Democrat thing, as I said before. And I'll go into that real quick before we jump into the break. So I belong to several conservative groups, on social media, especially Facebook. And I also belong to several, progressive groups. Okay, I would say liberal, but liberal's not a real thing. It's a goofy buzzword, and it's ugly. But I belong to several conservative groups. A lot of them also, not. What's a good way to say this? So not the QAnon whack job, just fiscal conservatives. Just specifically when it comes to, spending, what we should be spending our money on, but I digress. And then I also belong to progressive leftist groups, just to get a good opinion on what everybody's at. And from what I can tell, when it comes to vaccines and COVID and masks and social, this isn't a left versus right thing, unless you just believe the media, unless you just believe the liberal media, or unless you just believe the QAnon whack job, conservative media, right? I mean, it's not political. Dying and coughing up blood from your lungs, as these folks had so eloquently put it, is not a political motive. Okay, it's not something that you don't vote for that. I mean, I guess you do now because there's so many whack jobs out there. But I was actually surprised to find so many anti-vaxxer progressives. The idea is, and this should surprise any conservatives who are watching my channel or listening to the podcast. There are several groups and several individuals of anti-vaxxer leftists. The idea is bodily autonomy is very important to them, and therefore they are not for vaccine mandates. They're not for the vaccine at all being politicized as it has been by the left. Now, on the one side, I get that. A lot of them are also pro-choice. So on the one side, I get that. Here's the problem. When it comes to vaccines and when it comes to COVID, that's not really bodily autonomy if the idea is it's not really within your body. Okay, getting the vaccine and having that mandated, yes, that's within your body, but it's to keep something that's in your body from going into other bodies. Okay, so that when it comes down to it, the main issue at hand, that's irrelevant. It's a moot point, okay, and that's for the left. For the right, that's pretty easy because there are several news channels out there that are just floating garbage, and several folks who are very public figures who are also just floating garbage. I've listed a few here. There's just something wrong with these folks. I mean, there seriously is something wrong with these folks. The hypocrisy is astounding, and they should all be disgusted. Honestly, they should all just quit their jobs and, I don't know, go dig ditches under supervision. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But the idea that they're touting this as government overreach, when clearly it's the same type of government overreach that those folks are committing. You tell me, bro. I don't get it. But we're going to take a short break, jump back into this, and take a look at some social media comments. We'll see you then.